Bones and All was released yesterday, I want to say, day before yesterday. And we got to see it today.
Yes.
Now, this is brought to us from the director of the Suspiria remake, as well as Call Me By Your Name. And this is his revisiting into the horror genre with his follow up to Suspiria. So, what is this film about? Well, we have a young lady who supposedly is like 18, she says.
Multiple times.
Yep. I don't know. In the film, she says it because she's like trying to get things that you
Right.
have to be 18 for.
Yeah.
So I was like, and she's in high school, so I don't know if she for sure, but she has a birth
She
certificate.
does have a birth certificate.
And it is 18. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Anyways, so I think the actress's name is Taylor Russell. I think that's accurate. She is from Escape Room, and I've seen her actually in a few things at this point. But anyways,
I like her.
so she is not really allowed out of the house, and one night she decides to sneak off to go and hang out with this girl at a little bit of a sleepover hangout for I don't know if everyone else's like went out against their parents' wishes or not, but she does. And while she's there, she decides to take a snack, take a little bite,
Little nibble.
a little nibble off of her
Yeah.
friend. Her friend doesn't like this.
No.
She has
As
to run
most would
away.
not.
And so then she goes off and tries to figure out what the hell is wrong with her. Why does she have these compelling urges to eat people?
Yes.
And along the way, she meets some people a lot like her. One of those is played by Timothée Chalamet, and the other one is played by Mark Rylance. What this film reminded me of, not all of it by any means, but it had a similar feel to me. Doctor Sleep. I was getting Doctor Sleep vibes
Yes.
throughout this. Mark Rylance very much reminded me of like Rose the Hat,
Yes.
and combined with what's the native the Indian dude's name in that he has like a
I don't
native
remember.
name like
I definitely don't remember, but I
God, I
100%
can't even think of what it's
agree
called
with
right
you.
now.
I was thinking, like, it gave me major Stephen King vibes pretty much throughout, and specifically Doctor Sleep.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's a really good sense.
It mostly it's Doctor Sleep if you cut out the protagonists and you really just focused on Rose the Hat and her crew, right? And like somebody like Snakebite Andy or something who's brought in with these powers, so to speak. Even though they don't have powers, they have a desire to feed. And this is something that so some of them are conflicted about, and some of them aren't conflicted about it at all. Now, what I think that this film does really well is it does a really good job of exploring the different types of behaviors and reactions to this lifestyle and this calling, so to speak. You've got a few different characters that you meet along the way, and they kind of all they all show the different types that would be out there, right? And I really like that about the film. The film is beautifully shot,
Yes.
wonderfully
Gorgeous.
acted, but it is a slower paced film like you would expect.
Yes.
I would expect people to expect that it's an art house film. It's slower paced, but I personally was engaged throughout. I never was bored. I was very interested in where the story was heading. And I definitely connected very heavily to our main character and her relationship that she starts to have with Timothée Chalamet's character.
Yeah, I agree. I was not bored, and I thought that it was just beautiful. I love a lot of the shots at night. A lot of it isn't like set in the South and kind of in the country, and I just really enjoyed all of the landscapes and scenes that we got.
Yeah.
And I think that I was talking to you about it afterwards. Timothée Chalamet is like so beautiful in the film, and he was just like, it was very cool to watch him. And I think they both gave wonderful performances.
Yeah.
But he was just like ethereal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. It kind of felt like, I totally can't remember the name of this movie, but we watched it, I think, earlier this year, and it was on Shudder, I want to say, about...
Crow Daddy.
Crow Daddy, yes.
Is his
That's
name.
right, that's right. There was a movie we watched anyway that was like on Shudder about like these two like vampire zombie type people, and there was a romance going on that both you and I were like not into. I can't remember it, but the point was just that this movie felt kind of like that, but done very well. I wish I could remember the name. It was a French film. I don't know.
I'm not remembering what you're talking about
well,
currently.
That's all right. I'm sure I'll remember the name later.
But yeah, I was definitely very into it. But that said, this is definitely not, and I feel like I'm a fucking broken record at this point with this channel. This is not a film for everybody. I say this all the time.
It's not.
But this has that like A24 slow burn feel to it. But I don't know. A24 is accurate-ish. I guess A24 fits. It just
does.
Yeah, it just has that slow burn feel with the focus on trauma and family, right? Because she's going out and she's trying to discover who she is and why she is the way that she is. And if you're wanting an explanation on that, you're not going to get it. This film doesn't try to have a lot of exposition. A lot of things are ambiguous. A lot of things are just kind of left open for you to dissect later and come up with whatever theories you want. Right? This is a character piece. Right? This is all about following this girl and her interactions with multiple different people she comes across that are out there. And it almost could be like, I don't know, a metaphor for a woman's journey through her life after she leaves the house, and the different men that she comes across, and the different kinds of archetypes that there are. There's the romantic, and there's the jealous one, and there's the this and that. So I was very surprised because when he came on the screen, I was like, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? And sure as shit, David Gordon Green, director of Halloween 2018 trilogy, was an actor in this for about 5 minutes. And his character definitely represented something I was not expecting to see in this. But I'm so glad that I did. Because it was really fucked up. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, I guess that probably would exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it does exist.
Absolutely.
In reality, but it was just in this world that this is going on. Now, we probably missed the first 10 seconds of the movie, minute of the movie. I'm not sure. We walked in the movie as it had already started. And so we didn't see a year if they said one. But I'm going to assume it's the 80s. I'm going to assume it's the like mid to early 80s. And also there were 2 other people in the theater, and about 30 minutes in, they got up and left. Yeah. And the rest of the time, for the next hour and a half, we were there alone, which was great.
Yes, it was. It was actually really nice to be in the theater by ourselves.
Yeah. So I think that Mark Rylance is fantastic in this. He is very unsettling and creepy. And her interaction with him, especially when she first meets him and what they get up to. Yeah, I really liked the playing around with morality and, you know, trying to remain human while being a monster.
Yeah. I think that for me, I was a lot more focused on like the loneliness of everyone.
Sure.
Because that was a major theme, and I really just empathized and felt bad for all of the characters in different ways. But you're right, the kind of questioning of morality and where you draw lines and in the sand, so to speak. I thought that was great.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, I think the performances now, we focus primarily on those three characters. We spend the majority of the time, I think the main girl is on screen 99.9% of the time. I mean,
Marin.
she is like in every single second of the film.
Yeah.
And then secondary would be Timothy Chalamet. Once she meets him, there's a lot. And then Mark Rylance, probably third, with maybe 25 minutes of screen time. But other than that, it's just basically them two on the road, talking, hanging out, discussing what it is to be human or what it is to be a monster.
Yeah.
Kind of having this romance. So if that sounds boring to you, then you're probably gonna hate this movie. Right?
It's a really
it's a talky movie.
It's a talky movie. It's very intimate.
Very slow, very long stretches of no dialogue.
Very
beautiful
subtle,
scenery.
too.
Kind of like Brokeback Mountain in that way, where there's a lot of focus on like the scenery around them. Which, yeah, I mean,
I loved it. I thought
yeah.
it was, I just thought it was gorgeous and it was really nicely done.
It's a film, if you will.
It is.
I
It
know
is a
that can sound
film.
pretentious, but it is. It has something to say, and it's not going to play by any rules to adhere to try to appeal to a mass audience, right? But at the same time, I completely understand how people are like, why is it the slow, boring movies with very little plot are the ones that are blown by the critics, and then the like really action-packed, fun movies with like crazy plots are the ones everyone looks down on.
Sure.
Like, I get that too.
Yeah.
I totally get that too. I think they both have their artistry to them. I think they both have their purpose in cinema. And you don't have to like either
No.
to recognize that they both have purpose and value.
Yes. Well
So.
said.
Anyway, it's a recommendation for me for sure. I
For me
really
as well.
enjoyed it. But if you're that kind of person who sits through, something like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to compare it to things, but if you don't like that pace of an A24 kind of film, because I don't want to say something like Hereditary, because it doesn't have anywhere near that kind of horror, right? This
No.
is much more drama with horror elements thrown in. Their condition is horror,
Sure. Yes.
but their
much more
journey
drama.
is dramatic,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Very,
So,
very dramatic.
yeah, I don't see people who are going for like the horror. That is not what you're going to this movie for.
It's kind of like Lamb, in the sense that it's like there is a horror part to it, but it is, I don't know. I mean, it is the focus and it isn't, because it's like the condition, as you said, is horrifying.
It reminds me a
But-
little bit of that movie we watched earlier this year that I actually did find boring because I didn't connect, but it had about the same level of horror in it, which is like You Are Not Alone.
Yes, that's the other one I was trying to think of too. That's not the one I was talking about earlier, but
Okay.
that was definitely one that I was.
With Numi.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very similar to that.
but
in a
way
way,
more
at least.
engaging to me.
Yes.
Way more interesting to me.
I agree.
I was not into that movie at all and found myself bored. So if you're not connecting with the main character, if you're not connecting with their romance, if you're not connecting with Sully. Mm-hmm. Sully. Yeah. I do have to say I really loved Mark Rylance in this movie. I thought he was a great character that really sold this lonely guy who's creepy as fuck. But it's sad and tragic.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
I felt it was just pitiful. It's very pitiful.
Yeah, every character in this movie is just lost.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The reality of what they have to deal with, like, you do feel horrible for them because it's like, what would you do in that situation?
It's a life of loneliness.
Yes.
As they have. So, and yeah, I think the ending is also very poetic for people who are in love.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I was thinking that as well. There's a nice metaphor with like consumption and flesh, and especially when you talk about it in terms of romance and intimacy. Mm-hmm. There's like an exchanging and an absorbing of the other person that happens, and then when you lose that person in whatever way, whether it's death or through breakup or divorce or whatever, it's really is like losing parts of yourself at that point. Sure. And I thought it was a really poetic ending too.
So yeah, definitely a recommendation, but only for those of you who are into these kinds of movies. Yes. Beautiful film. Let us know. Bye.
Bye.